Good afternoon, everybody. We apologize for the delay, and um, and we hope you're ready for another discussion on the literary hour. And of course, we're back with Professor Nangwe. Prof, we're very happy to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jackie. It's good to be back.
We've been praying that all goes well. So, how are you feeling?
Oh, much better. It's a human frame. It's a human frame, but we are here.
Okay. So, we are ready for another exciting discussion about letters that have shaped the nation of Liberia, letters that have impacted us, letters that have impacted us positively and negatively. And today we're going to talk about letters and other communications with W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey and the government of Liberia. So, Prof, are you
Yeah,
ready?
we are here.
Okay, so I thought that first we would just start talking about the background of Marcus Garvey and Du Bois because they are two very different people, and then we kind of like bring them together the way they merge, and then we
Mhm.
bring in Liberia. So let's talk first about Du Bois. Who was W.E.B. Du Bois?
Well, one of the things that one has to think about in discussing first the letters and then talking about E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey is to really, and this question has to be a perennial question, what mind or what set of minds brought Liberia into being? At one level, it is a mind that was interested in shaping away from America a batch of what they call a aimless, burgeoning group of Africans. Let's get these guys out of the place there. You know, they are meaningless. They know nothing. They don't, and people were not interested in knowing how these people became meaningless. They just wanted to get them out of the place there. So get them out of this place here, and what happens to them or what doesn't happen to them, we don't have time for that.
See that W.E.B. Du Bois.
Uh-huh.
They, I know that he wrote the Souls of Black Folk. You
Mm.
know, because
Yeah,
that
that
book is
popular
like a
book.
masterpiece.
Yeah.
So for someone way back, right, 1895,
Mm.
he graduated from Harvard. Harvard,
Mm.
you know, so he was very educated. You
Mm.
know, he went to Fisk University, then he went to Harvard. So we know that he was very educated, and he was part of the African American elite
Yeah.
class. So let's talk about his philosophy, the talented 10.
In his childhood, he didn't really get the rough edge of racism.
Yes,
So it took a long time for him to see. He saw the growth of African Americans within the context of clean intellectualism.
yes,
Unlike Booker T. Washington, for instance, who had the rough edge, even though his father, at one point, it's believed that his father was a white man,
yeah,
but he was from the base of society. Therefore, he wasn't interested in bringing out the African American within the context of only the brain, but it had to also be about the brawn.
yes,
It had to be muscular energy and other kind of a thing. So he saw the evolution of the African American within the context of what the African American could do with hands, and just get there wherever you are and see where you leave from. You know, he will always say, drop the bucket wherever you are, and whatever will get in there will be. But W.E.B. Du Bois saw, and that's where you talk about the talented 10, who will redeem the rest of the African American population.
Yes.
What we need to keep in mind is that misunderstanding the way of the evolution of the African American became a problem for Du Bois, and therefore when Marcus Garvey came in, as we will talk about later, therefore when Marcus Garvey came in, and he came in at a point where the African American morale was down. And so his coming in the 1920s, it kind of stepped up the spirit of the African American. But not backwards, but Du Bois could not understand where this whole flow was going, and that became the tension between Du Bois and Marcus Garvey.
So Du Bois is purely intellectualism.
Yeah.
He said that a group of African Americans, the ones he calls the talented 10, would, by their education and the way they carry themselves, will be able to lift the other blacks. Yes. So for him, his philosophy was that education and capitalism would propel the black race forward. And so W.E.B. Du Bois was one of the founders of the NAACP.
Yeah, that's it.
And the journal The Crisis, right? So we have this, I would say, very well educated black man with a very forward looking, and he keeps saying we need to uplift the race by education and by economic empowerment. So he's trying now to uplift the black race. And then on the other side, we have Marcus Garvey. So Marcus Garvey is a Jamaican-born black. Marcus Garvey, before he came to the United States, he had traveled in Latin America. And he said that wherever he went, he saw that the black race was always subjugated.
Disparaged.
So he said that everywhere I travel, I see that the blacks don't have the same opportunities and the same treatment. So the only way, first he started a UNIA, right? United Negro Improvement Association. And they had factories and they were trying to empower people, right? And then you see that after he had done this and he had traveled, and then he came to the United States. But his entire philosophy was that there is no way the black race will be elevated or be made to advance in anywhere else but Africa. So let's see the first slide so we can see his UNIA, right? The objectives and things like that. So he said that if you look at the first slide, I think he says that the objective of the United Negro Improvement Association, he says an organization among Negroes that is seeking to improve the condition of the race with the establishing of a nation in Africa where Negroes will be given the opportunity to develop by themselves, right? So his motto was one God, one aim, one destiny, right? So his justification, if the slide is not working, I think I can read it. His justification, right? He says, the educated Negro is making rightful constitutional demands The great white majority will never grant them, so the time is opportune to regulate the relationship between both races. Let the Negro have a country of his own. Help him to return to his original homeland, Liberia, Africa, and there give him the opportunity to climb from the lowest to the highest position in a state of his own. Now, between him and Dubois, he says the NWACP, of which W.E.B. Du Bois is a leader, declares vehemently for political and social equality. They advocate the Negroes in the United States, right? In the cabinet and the Senate. All these, as everybody knows, are the Negroes' constitutional rights. But reason dictates that the masses of the white race will never stand by the ascendance of an opposite minority group. So here we have Du Bois saying that, look, we can rise up, we can advance, we can be in the White House, we can be in the Senate, and we can be in the cabinet. All we have to do is educate ourselves and advance ourselves to capitalism.
The thing about it is that Du Bois was operating in idealism.
Yes.
And Marcus Garvey, and you cannot forget, we should not forget Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey were operating in the practical. You know,
yes.
so yes. There was always a clash. Du Bois saw himself in the idealistic form, you know, bringing up the Negro. Yeah. And not caring about, he even talk about economics, but the thing about it is that, well, look, Marcus Garvey and Washington were saying, look, there has to be some level of gradualism. There has to be an understanding of the basic things about what the white man cannot allow the black man to achieve. And therefore, you have to take this slowly. That's the tension that was between Du Bois on one side and the two. I'm talking about Washington and Garvey on the other side. Yes, okay.
Because at the time, I doubt whether Du Bois had even traveled outside the United States. But Garvey had traveled. Garvey had gone all over Latin America. You know, so Garvey said that wherever he went, the black race was always the subordinate race.
Yeah.
So he wanted a new land. Okay. So then Garvey goes on. He says the only solution is to supply the Negro with opportunities and environment of his own. The Negro who seeks the White House in America could find it in his ambition in Africa. So he continues and he says the Negro has a claim to America white sympathy that cannot be denied. The Negro has labored for 300 years in contribution to America's greatness. Right? Yet it is realized that all human beings have a limit to their humanity. The humanity of white America, we realize, will seek self-protection and self-preservation. And that is why the thoughtful and reasonable Negro sees no hope in America for satisfying the program of the NWACP. But advances the reasonable plan of the UNIA, which is creating in Africa a nation and government for the Negro race. Right?
Yeah.
So he is just, you know, he's like, look, there is no way. We have to go. So he's trying to convince people, where at the same time, Du Bois is also trying to convince people to stay.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So there's this clash. You know, there's this clash. So what's happening now at this time?
Yeah. You see, the thing that when we look at Du Bois, whatever his intentions were, and we will hope and believe, especially looking at the book he wrote in the 1920s, if we look at that, we will say that he had all good intentions.
Yes.
Except that the intentions were misplaced. A thorough understanding of what the black man was going through at his time was not known to Dubois.
Yes.
As I was telling you, he grew up. One would say for his time, he grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. You know, the playground and all that he went through. Comparatively, he was better off. And it is said that he once experienced some lynching.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That got to his soul.
Yes.
And that was when he began to understand in a basic way the problem that his people were facing.
Yes. When they lynched this man,
Yes.
he was going to the newspaper or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when he passed the window, the hands of this guy that was burnt was in the window.
Yeah.
And he just turned around and went back. Yeah.
It became traumatic for him. And from that point, he decided he would do something for that. But then, you know, the path to take, that is one of the things, again, as we work on these things, we need to contextualize them. The thing about what he wanted to do, the idea that a few educated, comparatively educated African Americans could liberate the entire black population, you know, that was idealistic. And that is part of how he went down, really. That is how, because he held that, and the letter or two that we are going to look at, you know, that when he was given the opportunity to go to Liberia and attend the inaugural, you know, the inaugural of the president out there. The thing about it is that what he saw in Liberia.
We're jumping. Well, let's talk about that later down the road.
Okay, all right, okay, well. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So now we have these two groups. Yeah. We have the back to Africa group.
Yeah.
And we have the one that says we're gonna stay.
Okay.
We're gonna stay. We're gonna occupy the Senate. We're gonna occupy the cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna occupy the White House, but we're gonna stay. So then to Marcus Garvey now, right? Remember, he has the UNIA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He established even factories.
Yeah.
To teach young blacks
mm-hmm.
to make a living.
Yes.
Right. So he keeps advocating for this country of only blacks, and so he says there is Liberia. I'm quoting him now. There is Liberia already established as an independent Negro government, right? Let the whites assist Afro-Americans to go there and help develop the country. Mm-hmm. Then there are the late German colonies. Mm-hmm. Let white sentiments force England and France to turn them over to the American and West Indian Negro who fought for the Allies in the World's War. Yeah. Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast. And he goes on to say, the Negroes of Africa and America are one in blood. Yes. They have sprung from the same common stock. They can live and they can work together. So Garvey has thought about this. He has thought about the fact that the blacks will not advance in America. They must go back to Africa, where in Africa, there's Liberia. And then he says, not only Liberia is already established as a government. Yes. But the French and the German, they owe the United States for the help in the war. Mm-hmm. So the French and the German should give Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast to the black race so they can settle. Yes. Yeah. So how logical do you see that?
Well, right there is race politics that is being played. And there is an element of reparation that is in there. Yep. And the logic of those who are together, who belong together, must belong together. So, in other words, Marcus is still on the scene trying to make these guys to see sense. Look, it's like saying, look, we want to go back home. We want to take our people back home. See what you had done to them. And if we first, the first World War, as we were saying, was what? 1914, 1918. Yeah, World War One. And all these things, can we exact some economic benefit from you and then help us go back to where we belong?
Yeah.
So that in the process, we do not trouble you, you don't trouble us.
Yes. Yes.
So all these things, were kind of both social, political, economic power play that he was trying to kind of bring to the fore. Unfortunately, a man like Dubois could not take something from Marcus Garvey, especially given the boisterousness of
Yes.
yes.
Because if you read, Dubois was what's the word? Genteel.
Yeah.
He was very genteel, upper class.
Uh-huh.
And here comes the Jamaican born with his Jamaican language, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. And he was like, no. In fact, if you remember, Dubois wrote in the NWACP newspaper.
Yes.
He said that what's his name? He said Dubois Garvey was authoritarian. He had authoritarianism.
Yes.
And he was too. What did he say? He was vain.
Yes.
Yeah, he said he was vain.
Mm-hmm.
He was not somebody that you could listen to.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Dubois didn't like. He tried as much as possible to kind of humor the guy, but eventually you could see that he didn't like Marcus
Garvey.
Like
him.
Yes.
He didn't like him. Yeah. In fact, he wrote he said that Garvey was honest, right? But vain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he said something very important. And as we go on, we're going to see that for all you Liberians, this is something because Dubois warned Garvey. He warned Garvey that he said, look, that your nationalism,
mm-hmm.
your black power,
yes,
that you were taking to Africa,
yes,
the anti-colonial propaganda,
yes,
Britain and France, they have colonies around Liberia.
Yes.
And they will not tolerate you going there to talk about black power. They're not going to do that, you know. So he warned Garvey, right? But Garvey, of course, not only did he not listen, he I mean, like you said, Dubois was very idealistic, and Garvey was practical, and Garvey was like, we're going, right? So Garvey took the what is it called? The Black Star steamship, right? So Garvey is like, we're going. I don't care. We're going to go. So he got this ship.
Yeah.
Right. But remember the letter, he said that they needed assistance from the white race, right? He said, look, I know you guys don't want us here. So since you don't want us here, you pay for us to go, right? So
help us go. Help us go.
So what Garvey did was Garvey started to sell bonds, right? He started to sell bonds because he was trying to get money for the ship, because the ship had a lot of maintenance problems. But Garvey also promised President C.D.B. King, right, in Liberia. He said, we're gonna give you money because Liberia was going bankrupt. He said, we're gonna give you money, we're gonna build a hospital, and we're going to create trade routes where you can you can have commerce, right? So he promised Liberia these things, and then he has this ship that he wants to bring the people to Liberia. So that he needed money. So he started to sell bonds to people through the mail, right?
And yet,
do that.
And yet the quality of the ship became his undoing. You know, the quality of the ship.
A lot of maintenance problems.
So,
I wonder who sold him that ship. Maybe it's Dubois. Maybe it's Dubois.
No, Dubois didn't do it.
Maybe it was the NWACP that said he sold him that ship. But anyway, yes, Garvey, people want to go to Liberia. People can't go right now. Garvey is selling stock because Garvey needs to maintain the ship. Not only does he need to maintain the ship, Garvey also needs to give Liberia money, build hospital for Liberia.
Yeah. He had all these huge dreams.
So he had all these things. So he's selling stocks. Whereas at the same time, Dubois is like, this man, he's crazy, nothing's going to happen, right? So it's very interesting, Prof, because you know I'm always amazed that this little country Liberia, you know, it has been in the midst of a lot of historical events. You know, I mean, we talked last week when you were not here. We talked about the French, how the French almost took our country and they took some of our land. We talked about
even the British, you know, they took their part.
Yeah, they took their part, but the French took a huge chunk of Liberia land and
250 miles.
Yeah. And now we come and we see way across the ocean, we have these two intellectuals, and they're talking about uplifting the Black race in two different ways. And then we have Liberia again. Because Liberia has always been this shining beacon to people everywhere. And that's why when we talk, when we had the conversation on the Unification Day, we said no matter how you got to Liberia, the common thread was migration and freedom. You left from somewhere and you were coming to a country that you wanted to be free. You know, so it was very interesting that that Marcus Garvey said, look, the America can put pressure on the British to give us Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast. But we already got Liberia. So Liberia has its own government. We just need to go to Liberia. So we have Garvey selling his little stuff. We have Dubois say it's not going to happen. And then we see, and that, I'm sorry, Prof, I just have to laugh. And then we see that, we see that Garvey decides that he wants to send somebody, right? He wants to send somebody to Liberia. So they
as
can
this
go,
agent.
Yeah, his name is Eli Garcia or something, Eli, right? So Eli Garcia is going to go to Liberia, and Eli Garcia is going to go and he's going to look at Liberia, like kind of like, I don't know, he's going to look at Liberia and make sure that Liberia is the place, right? That they want to go. So Ely goes to Liberia, and Ely sees Liberia. I'm sorry, Prof, I don't mean to laugh. And Ely writes Garvey, but remember now, the letter was to be private. It was a confidential letter that Ely was writing to Garvey about what was happening in Liberia. And I quote, and please, audience, it's not me, it's the letter. He says, American Liberians are the most despicable element in Liberia. They use the Africans as slaves and employ their education to obtain government jobs in which they practice wholesale graft. So this corruption thing been there forever.
Yes, in fact, there is a 1913 book by Frederick Starr, Starr. You know, this whole thing about government jobs being a territory for carrying out the most despicable corruption and what have you, that is not a new thing. You know, where people, I don't care what happens to them, they want to have a government job because they know with a government job they can do so many ugly things. You know, it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing.
So this is Garcia's letter.
Yes,
to
this was
Garvey.
later.
But
Yeah.
remember, Prof, the letter should have been private.
Yes.
Liberia intercepted the letter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if Dennis is here. He could show the letter because somebody people might want to read the letter. But that's what Garcia said. Garcia said, I think it's like the third slide, Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Garcia said that the people, yes, this one right there, yeah. So this is a letter he says he's talking about. You know, so this thing about fighting for government job has been there for a long time. This is not something new.
No.
Yeah, he says, oh, this is what's happening. But the thing is that he also said to Garvey, if you remember, he said to Garvey, but do not show them that you know,
Mm-hmm.
right? He said, let's keep it a secret.
Mm-hmm.
And then when things, you know, he said when things when you what is it called? When you come, you can start doing things.
Yeah.
But right now we can't do anything because you're not there, right? So don't but
Go about things quietly.
yeah. But unfortunately, unfortunately,
They intercepted the letter.
they intercepted the letter. And when they intercepted the letter,
Hell broke loose.
yeah, no. CDB King said that they should just act like nothing's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing was that when they needed an agent in Liberia, remember, Ili Garcia only went to look at the lay of the land. Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Yeah, but when Ili went back, they needed somebody to be their representative.
Yeah.
So they got Gabriel Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
a Liberian who
Yeah.
was a mayor.
And in-law to
Yes, father-in-law. He was the father-in-law of President CDB King.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that, okay, you will be our representative.
Mm-hmm. $12,000 they will give them.
I'll give you $12,000. Yeah, $12,000, right? And for some reason, CDB King got very mad. I mean, I don't understand. And so what CDB King did, he sent Gabriel Johnson to Fernando Poe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Explain that to me, Prof.
You remember earlier on, I pointed out to you that to understand I call it the Liberian drama.
Yes.
You've got to understand the variety of minds that thought they were building Liberia. Others went there because Liberia was an elephant ready to be carved off and consumed. Others saw Liberia as a place where meaningful things could be done to demonstrate the capacity of the African American, the black man, to be able to lead that. But unfortunately, those who went there with dubious intent to see, those who went in there to see what they could get out of Liberia, unfortunately, were more.
Yeah.
That is where much of our problem, our early problem, that is where it began from. So the whole thing about King and his in-law and a few and letters being intercepted and all that kind of a thing, unfortunately, cast a dark cloud on the evolution of Liberia.
Yeah. So President CDB King decided that Gabriel Johnson, his father-in-law, would leave Liberia because he was the mayor in Liberia.
Yeah, that's right.
He sent him to be the consul general in Fernando Poe.
How
Because
about that?
so I'm thinking, is it the $12,000 or is it that he just didn't like Garvey?
The thing, it was a combination. It wasn't the one thing. The idea that already, remember, the letter has been intercepted and they know without even making fuss about it. They know where the Garvey group are coming from and what have you, and therefore, especially, meantime, Dubois was like a needle. He kept going in and out of the whole place there.
Yeah,
And
but Prof,
uh-huh.
you know, that's why I think this thing, because in one of the letters, even Garvey said that UNIA is being undermined with sophistication.
Uh-huh.
Because Dubois would, I mean, this man would, first of all, he's the educated one. He's not
Yeah.
going to let Garvey succeed.
Mm-hmm.
But what he did, because remember at that same time now, when they intercepted the letter and everything, Garvey is having problems of his own with the American government.
Yeah. In
Because-
fact, he was put in jail.
Yes, because Garvey was selling stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And the American government said that he was doing it, I don't know, but through the mail, they gave him mail fraud.
Yeah.
So Garvey was fighting mail fraud charges. While he was fighting mail fraud charges, Dubois said, well, let me just come there. And Dubois went to a lawyer, and the lawyer had ties to Calvin Coolidge, who was the president, right, of America, and said, you know, it would be nice if you send Dubois to Liberia, you know, so Dubois can represent the government.
Yeah.
So this man, he sent Dubois as, what do you call it, extraordinary plenipotentiary.
Yeah. Extraordinary plenipotentiary, yeah, right.
And there was no salary involved.
Yeah.
But Calvin Coolidge sent Dubois. And I think the sad thing for me is that Marcus Garvey, who this Pan-Africanist, this nationalist, who saw the future, you know, and says we need to. He never went to Liberia. He never visited Liberia. But we have Dubois. I mean, I guess, yeah. So Dubois, through Calvin Coolidge, he gets to Liberia, right?
Yeah.
And he says, and then he said, I'm quoting because I have some of the text here. He said, I will never forget the night I set foot on Africa's soil, right? But remember Ely Garcia? Ely Garcia has said that, oh, these people, they just want government jobs. When they get educated, they just don't steal. They don't treat the indigenous people right, right? But Dubois comes to Liberia. He comes to visit Liberia. And Dubois writes the president. In fact, he wrote the Secretary of State, not Coolidge, right? He writes the Secretary of State, you know, and he says, Liberia has, and I quote, extended her democracy to include natives on the same level as Liberians. Now, first of all, let me ask you: are natives not Liberians?
Well, the thing about it is that the Du Bois did not understand the complexity. They did not understand the complexity of the relationship between settler Liberians and the indigenous people, of course, who at the time still were struggling to be recognized as Liberians and what have you. And it is the hodgepodge of his understanding of the situation that he kept. And in fact, the whole thing, even when he tried to bring in Harvey Firestone, okay, as if he knew the condition right there, and he wanted to instruct Harvey Firestone, it backfired.
Yeah, because if you remember, so Dubois not only has something totally different from what Ely Garcia said. Dubois said, no, don't let these people lie to you. The natives are on the same level as Liberians.
You see.
Then he says, and Liberia has balanced her budget. And he said, and they had never had a rebellion or internal disturbances in comparatively few cases where they were like natives, right?
Du Bois did not understand the nature of things in that place there, and yet, because of his education, he thought that he could have his way out there. You see?
And then Du Bois, I mean, so after he sent this thing to the Secretary of State, right? Then he heard about Firestone, that Firestone was coming to Liberia, right? And then Dubois said he encouraged Firestone, and I quote, "One thing above all that must be avoided was taking capital into a small country and putting it under the control of officials who despise the natives and organize ruthless exploitation. By training Negroes, he, Firestone, might have a more normal development by putting in the hands of the people of the same race, local and immigrant, such power over the invested capital as would divert it, at least to some extent, towards ends of social welfare as well as towards profit." But Firestone never acknowledged his letter.
No.
So if you look at Dubois, I mean, Firestone is coming to Liberia and he's saying to Firestone, "Look, when you come in, don't be so hasty, right? And even when you make money, you must take that money and put it in social welfare programs, not just for profit, right?" And unfortunately, they never acknowledged his letter. Why, Prof? Why do you think they didn't acknowledge his letter?
It's part of the snobbishness. You know, it's who are you to dictate? Who are you to tell me what I am bringing in capital and what have you? Who are you to dictate? That's the mind of Harvey. I'm talking about Firestone, and therefore he went on to do his own thing, and eventually, unfortunately, it didn't pan out. Whatever set of thoughts that Dubois had, and then when you think about his own interaction with Marcus Garvey, you know, he seemed not to have been the perfect broker to be able to get the entire thing in the right place for both the indigenous group and the settler group as a way of pushing ahead to uplift the population in that part of the world.
Sorry, Prof. I hit something and I thought I had started the show. Yeah, but my thing is, if you look at Dubois, right? This is the perfect. I mean, Firestone is perfect for him because it's all capitalism. So what he's saying is that look, I just want you to employ, blacks, because if you employ blacks, again with the capitalism, it's going to lift them up. So he's saying, and the blacks that you're going to employ when you're making your profit, then use some of that money for the upliftment, right, for social welfare. So if you look at it, Dubois also, I mean, I don't want to say that he just was thinking of blacks in America, because he knew that there were blacks in Liberia as well. But one thing that was funny about Dubois was that, if you remember, when he was saying that, oh no, the people live on the same level. But in that same document, right, he talked about going upriver, remember? And he said he lived with this family that had a compound of endless slave servants. So what he meant by that?
You see, Jackie, it's a sad thing. I'm not saying this to disparage even the intentions of Dubois. All I'm saying is that when you allow one mentality, when you allow one particular perception to flow with the whole aspect of trying to bring a light to the entire process, and yet you are not successful in understanding what the problem is, then it is, and it's a sad thing, because we know that Dubois was a sociologist. He trained as a sociologist and what have you, and yet a sociologist who does not have that ample time to be able to fully understand the problem that is at hand, and yet want to pontificate on that problem, that becomes a problem. And that was the thing that happened in the case of Dubois.
Yeah. So at this time now, Dubois gone to Liberia. He even attended CDP King second inauguration.
Yes. In fact, that's what he went for.
Yeah, you know, and poor Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is in America trying to defend himself. Ultimately, he went to jail for
Yes.
5 years. 5 years he went to jail for mail fraud. But Dubois is in Liberia, right? So in 1924, right? Garvey is still, he has not given up his dream of sending people to Liberia, of this Negro nation, right? So he once again he goes back, he contacts the government in Liberia, right? So at that time, Arthur Barclay, Daniel E. Howard, put on this commission to look at this UNIA to see, okay, these people want to come to Liberia. Let's see what they want to do in Liberia, you know. So the engineers, so Garvey sends engineers to Liberia to go and build some houses and you know, do some things
all
like
that concentration camp and all that.
Yeah, and Garvey, he sees the place where they put the engineers, right? And he says, oh, these places, they look like concentration camp, right? At the same time, Dubois is getting really angry with Garvey because he's feeling that Garvey is not paying attention to the blacks in America. He just wants for them to leave America, right? So he said to Garvey that first he had warned Garvey, right, that England and France will not tolerate this Black Power nationalist movement, right? But Garvey is still persisting. Garvey has sent engineers and things like that, right? And so when Marcus Garvey continued, right, Dubois got so angry, and he said, I quote, he says, there is no doubt Marcus Garvey is without doubt the most dangerous enemy of the Negro race in America and in the world. He said he is either a lunatic or a traitor who should be locked up or sent home.
Okay.
Listen to that, bro.
Look at the language. I mean, I in the first we have to break the relationship down into phases. What Du Bois did earlier on was he didn't like this guy, he didn't like Marcus Garvey, but he was trying to tolerate him up to a point. And when Marcus Garvey kind of fell in his line of contempt, I'm talking about now I'm talking about Du Bois. He didn't waste any time in terms of just trashing the guy and just sending him like to being nothing. And again, that became a part of that became a sledgehammer that I'm not saying that what Du Bois did was the only thing that sent Marcus Garvey packing from America. But I believe that what he eventually did in terms of his attitude towards the man's own problems, I believe helped a whole lot in helping Marcus Garvey packing out of the place there. I mean, he had his this meal fraud problem and all that kind of a thing. But anything that could have added to it to send him packing, Du Bois was one of those who did that.
Yeah, and if you remember, when I think what happened was that Du Bois thought that Garvey would give up. Remember when he said that Garvey should join him so they can uplift the blacks here. And when Garvey, despite his legal battles, he continued to say that blacks should go
back
they need their own country. So he when he went back, I mean he continued in Liberia. He kept pushing, right? But the problem was, if you remember, the people that were supporting Garvey was J.J. Dawson and Gabriel Johnson. And Gabriel Johnson had been sent to Fernando Po. and J.J. Dawson died.
Mm-hmm.
So Garvey didn't have a lot of friends there.
No, not at all.
So when he
Later on.
went back and he said, "Oh, I want to bring people," they went and took Daniel E. Howard and I think Arthur Barkley also, and put them on a commission and say, y'all go look and decide if this man should send people to Liberia. So they went, this commission went, right? But you know, I think that those people, I think that because of the first letter that Garcia wrote.
That letter.
Yeah.
It,
So I think that because of that letter, because if you remember right after that when he said all the people they are like concentration camps, what happened was that the president, the Liberian president, he seized all the equipment, the engineers' equipment. He deported them from Liberia. You know, so these are the people who were supposed to come and build houses and prepare land for the blacks to go back.
Yeah, for the movement.
And now you have deported them. You have seized all their equipment. So Garvey, I mean, what else can Garvey do? Garvey can't do anything, right? So if you remember, the interesting thing about Garvey is that Garvey was so against Firestone. You know, Dubois, because of the capitalism, Dubois didn't. He just said, "Oh, just educate black people, you know, and give them money and give money to social welfare." But Garvey, it says Garvey, you know, Garvey says that, you know, please, you know, don't give the land to Firestone. He begged Liberia not to give the land to Firestone, but of course, he had no friends, right? Because if it was what 1924, and then Firestone came when 1926. Right?
Just within that, what 1920s? Yeah, that's what.
So nobody listened to Garvey, right? And then, as an asterisk, if you remember, the Liberian Secretary of State, the Liberian ambassador, went to visit the Assistant Secretary of State, and I want to read what he had because I didn't put it in a thing. He said, "The Garvey movement is entirely the work of one man, Marcus Garvey, who seems to have unlimited ambition and desires to found a Negro empire in Africa, of which he should be the ruler.
Yes.
The movement is extremely radical and is subversive to good government. It apparently has in this country a strong communist angle." Yes.
Once communism got into the picture, you know, it became the red flag.
Yes.
It became the scarlet sea, the scarlet
And
letter.
the sad thing was that in this, if you look at this, meeting between the Liberian ambassador to the United States and the Assistant Secretary of State, the United States Assistant Secretary of State, you will see that when they're talking, they said Britain and France protested to the Liberian government against Garvey. Now, so I'm thinking that is Liberia really a colonial state? Because if you're a sovereign state, why do you listen to these other people?
Remember the last LSA conference, we talked about the truncated what?
Truncated sovereignty.
we talk about truncated sovereignty and what have you. You see, it's I mean, we are talking about it. It's not that we are laughing, but it is sad. Again, it goes back to what minds created Liberia.
Yes.
What minds created Liberia. And it is the understanding of the minds that created Liberia, you know, that would kind of lead to the modern day understanding of the trials and tribulations of that little country called Liberia.
Yeah.
You go there, and why are you there for? The Westerners saw Liberia first as a place where the gymnastics of politics and economics will fight. Some went there to see what they would scoop up and leave the place. It had to take a smaller percentage to be able to fight for the survival and the dignity of this country. Unfortunately, because of the size of the percentage that was ready to give Liberia its own dignity, we've had what we continue to have in the country today. And it is a sad thing.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time I'm reading, and then they will say, "This place is a country for Black people," but we need the white people to give us money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, you need a white. So I would think that President CDB King would be so happy to have Garvey because this is a Black republic.
Yeah.
And why are you listening to Britain and France anyway? If you're saying that this is a place for Africans, and Marcus Garvey is saying, I am bringing Africans here.
Yeah.
Why are you so hostile to him just because Britain and France complain?
Yeah.
Are you really a sovereign country? If you are a beacon of hope for Black people, and Marcus Garvey says there is no way a Black man can be the equal of a white man in America.
Yeah.
So we are coming. You should be the one to open arms and say, come.
Yeah.
And you are saying, no. Simply because two colonial masters or colonial powers complain.
Yeah.
And now we have Garvey, again, prophetic words. He's begging the government of Liberia, do not give your land to Firestone. Give us your land, let us come. We have built factories. UNIA has built factories.
Yeah.
We are training Black people. Let us come.
We want to empower them.
Yes, and the government says, no, we're going to give 1 million acres of land to Firestone. Even Dubois tried to temper by writing to Harvey Firestone, who never acknowledges his letter anyway. So it's really a sad account of Liberia. Like we always talk about critical juncture.
Yeah.
It was a lesson. It was a lesson learned, but an opportunity missed. I think it was an opportunity missed.
Yeah.
So Dubois goes back to the United States, and poor Garvey is deported.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes to England. His dream. He goes to England, and I think he died when he was 52 years old, very young. Of a stroke. But here's the rub. Everything Garvey said to Dubois came true. Dubois had to run out of the United States.
Yeah. FBI was on his tail. FBI was on his tail, and eventually Nkrumah said, "I beg you, man. Yes, I respect you. Come and edit some books for the dignity and personality, the personality and dignity of the African." Yeah.
Yes. So you see now, everything that Garvey was saying to Dubois, your education will not save you. You are saying that with your education, you will take your rightful place, and Garvey is saying self-preservation. The white race will not allow you to advance. And Dubois said that Garvey was the most dangerous man in the world. Garvey was a communist. Garvey should be kicked out of the United States, which he was. So Garvey dies, and the FBI says, okay, okay, Dubois, now it's your turn. And so the FBI starts to hound Dubois, right? And Dubois realizes what Garvey says to him, right? Dubois, right, says now, in the source of Black folk, remember, he says, quote, the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line, right? So now Dubois is in Ghana. He lived to be very old. I think
he lived to be old. Whoa.
Yeah, he lived to be very old, but now Garvey lived to be old. Not Garvey, Dubois lived to be old. Garvey died when he was 52 years old.
Mhm.
But here are some of the words we want to leave you guys with, and then we discuss it before.
Yeah.
So Garvey says, and I quote, the leaders of the Liberian society
Mhm.
are afraid of me,
Mhm.
for they realize
Mhm.
they have no colleague
Mhm.
in me to exploit the labor of the
Of the indigenous.
unfortunate blacks
Yes, the
and
indigenous.
build up class distinction
Yeah.
based on education of
Yeah.
the wrong sort.
Yeah.
So Garvey says the people in Liberia are afraid of me
Mhm.
because they know I am not their friend
Mhm.
because of the class system,
Yeah.
right? I'm not their friend. So he
Mhm.
realizes that,
He- this guy, what we will say is, we will say he's a ragtime fellow in terms of being street smart.
yes,
And Dubois was, for Dubois, Marcus Garvey was too much for him.
yes.
And
He,
anything that
he
he
wanted
would
to
do,
take it slow. He wanted to
yeah,
take it slow.
yes, and anything that he would do to double cross him, he will easily do.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the system that the white man set up was capable enough to kind of deal with both the opposite black man and the guy who was downstairs. Hey,
But,
that's my friend, Francis. My friend says, "Welcome
but,
back. Thank you."
oh, oh, okay. Oh, you
Yeah.
read the comment. But also, if you remember that even around that time,
Uh-huh.
there were. I mean, not everybody, because you had like the blindings coming from the Caribbean,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
they said the Caribbean, the people were more educated,
Uh-huh.
right? So you have the educated people coming from Caribbean, and you had the people, some of them who were illiterate, coming from the
Mhm.
United States,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? So you have all these mix of people, right? But Garvey realizes, you know, that there's a problem there. But I want to read. Unfortunately, Du Bois realized it also, right? And Du Bois says, and I want to read, and I quote, he said, daily, this is the man, remember, Prof, who said that all we have to do is become educated.
Mhm.
Now he says, daily, the Negro is coming more and more to look upon law and justice,
Mhm.
not as protecting safeguards,
Mhm.
but as sources of humiliation
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
oppression.
Mhm.
The laws are made by men
Mhm.
who have little interest in
Mhm.
him. They are executed by men who have absolutely no motive for treating the black people
Mhm.
with courtesy or consideration.
Mhm.
And finally, the accused lawbreaker is tried
Mhm.
not by his peers,
Mhm.
but too often
Mhm.
by men who would rather punish 10 innocent Negroes
Mhm.
than let one guilty one escape.
It's you know, experience. Words come with experience,
Yes,
and you can, if you look at those words, they are words coming from an experienced Du Bois now.
yes,
And yet, by the time he understands all these things, it is late.
it is late.
It becomes a moment of regret. And again, some time ago, we talk about human greatness. Okay. And you can see the same way at some point, uh, Edwin Barclay came to understand politics by the situation he had with Tubman. The same way Du Bois came to understand the white man by his own experiences, the experiences of the system setup, including FBI, CIA, and all those people there, and how he was hounded and all that. All these things began to interplay.
Yeah.
And he the language you just read, the language you just read was coming out of an older person who had come to understand that education, the black man, for the black man, it would take long, but the black man will not so easily save himself given the network of indignities
Yeah.
that the white man had planted here and there.
Yeah.
Understandably, as I was saying, unfortunately, they say hindsight is what? Is that 24?
2020.
Okay, oh, sorry.
Hindsight is 2020.
That is 120. But then, by the time you know what is happening, the deed has been done.
Yes. Yes.
See the kind of fiery language he exerted on Marcus Garvey and whatever plans that Marcus Garvey had, and that is, unfortunately, that is the sad thing. That is the sad nature of our situation.
And you're right, Prof. I think also when he started writing about Michael Garvey should leave
Yeah,
America, I think that influenced the
yeah,
people
yeah,
to
yeah.
support him.
At that,
Yeah.
at that time now, remember that whatever was happening, Dubois, they were making so much of his education and all that kind of a thing, and
Yeah.
therefore he had some clout.
Yes.
So
Yes.
using this cloud, whatever the case was, to make sure that the one singular thing was for the redemption of the black man was not in
Yeah.
his case.
In fact, when he before he went to Liberia,
Mm-hmm.
his friend, the black lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
told the Secretary of State, said, "Would it be nice
Yeah,
for you to send somebody for
yeah,
the government to send?" So when they sent him
mm-hmm.
and they gave him that big title,
Yeah,
extraordinary planet,
yeah,
but
yeah,
with no salary,
mm-hmm.
so he had some clout. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So do we have any comments? Maybe we can read comments. I don't know if anybody's watching. I hope people are watching. I think this is a very exciting discussion about
Let
Liberia
us.
and settling. But do we have any comments? Maybe not. Um, oh, Prof.
That's
This person
my
says,
friend.
"Welcome back, Prof."
Thank you, process. We are here, God willing.
This is Dr. Salih, Professor of Black To know more about Du Bois, read my introduction of Blackology on Black Race. I'm a Garvey. Du Bois was racist. He did not that he was black until he went to Fisk University because he was near white and the only black sociologist. He questioned
Mm.
other dark skinned people. Du Bois questioned Booker Washington intellectual capability when he listened to Washington Atlanta Compromise speech.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I mean, we know that Du Bois
Mm-hmm.
was light skinned. I didn't know that he was racist, but Eduardo Di Bosco, hi, Eduardo. He says thanks for the beautiful shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
But
I think
talking
Eduardo
about,
is.
yeah,
Emma Salif says he
uh-huh.
was against capitalistic exploitation of the masses. However, he was under the complexion connection syndrome. He despised Marcus Garvey because of his dark skinned militant nationalist African complexion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, Eduardo. Eduardo is watching from Nigeria, I think.
Oh, is that right?
And Josh Peto says, a great professor.
Well,
Hey, it's not only Professor Nagwe who's on the show.
mm-hmm.
Eduardo said, Professor, this is true, and most African countries were invented in like manner. The invention of Africa and how Europe and Africa underdeveloped Africa. I'm following your comments and learning. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's yeah.
What we continuously forget is one, that not all the settlers came from America. So there was a totally different mindset of settlers. You also then have the classism, colorism, and the inability till today of Black people to love themselves and each other enough to make their united selves a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had people from the Caribbean coming,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course there was this hierarchy of white and black. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
furthermore, the abused child becomes the abuser. Don't forget, the majority of the people who came were not these educated, highfalutin people. They brought the plantation mentality with them also. Totally agree, says Francis. You're right. You're right. Ruth Gordon, okay, Moses Nangwe, you taught me in school, and I don't regret that. Thank you so much. And probably your student is here.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. Thank you. I'm glad something great has come of you too.
Yeah, yeah.
It,
So nice comments. Yeah. So
the,
yeah, Prof.
at the center of it all is the idea that there was a panoply of perceptions that kind of confused the African mind.
Yes.
You know, we continue. We'll always go back to books like Franz Fanon. You know, and you know, and the thing about it is that not fully understanding yourself becomes your undoing.
Yes.
If you don't
Yes.
fully understand, that is why some time ago when we talk about the Black personality, who are we, and what can we do to first appreciate ourselves, and within that context, see the progress we make along the road. So whether it was Dubois with his education, or it was Marcus Garvey with his street smartness, or Booker T. Washington with his practical understanding of what could lift the Black man or Black individual from the base of society up to a certain extent. So these things will continue to collide.
Uh,
And as we work our way through, when it comes to Liberia, which is the core part of our, or the foundational concept of our discussion here, we've got to understand. That is why I don't know how many people have been able to send a word about the essays we are trying to develop. You know, we come here and we talk, and yet not too many people are responding. What does Liberia mean to you?
yes. Yes.
If you understand what Liberia means to you, and not some alloyed or some mixed up type of understanding of what Liberia ought to mean to you, then it becomes a base, a foundation for understanding where we need to go. People will say, oh, what does writing an essay, what does it mean? It is an understanding, the demonstration of the understanding of where you are, who you are as a Liberian, what Liberia means to you, and we working together in demonstrating an understanding of the conversation will be able to move forward. Unfortunately, that is not happening.
You know, Prof, it is like what they say, love cannot be hid, right? When you love somebody or you love something, there's a manifestation,
Yes.
right? Of saying, I must show my love, so it's almost like what is that poem? Breathe there, a man so dead that you not say this is my own native land.
Yeah.
That poem. So it's almost like nobody has to say to you, oh, what does Liberia mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
It must flow.
It must flow from your very gut.
Yes,
Yeah,
you know,
that's where it must flow from.
and
Yeah.
if somebody says, okay, 3 paragraphs, you should be the one saying 3 paragraphs, they're not enough for me to tell you what Liberia means
Mm-hmm.
to me. But it's like every week we come, we're like, okay, we want to publish these essays of what Liberia means to us. And it's like you almost begging,
Yeah.
So it's like, does Liberia even mean something to you?
Mm-hmm.
And what you say about core, I always say, Julius Nyerere used to say, who feeds you owns you,
Yeah.
right? And I don't think, and we keep coming back to this fundamental question: what is Liberia?
Mm-hmm.
What is Africa? Because I find it almost obscene that that African leaders are bowing to
Mm-hmm.
France for pittance.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken so much
In
from
China,
you.
even
You know,
China. Yeah.
these are the people who demanded that Haiti, for daring to want its independence. Haiti,
Yeah.
poor country like Haiti, people say, oh, Haiti is always poor.
Yeah.
Haiti had to pay over $6 billion
Mm-hmm.
to France because France said, oh, but we were not ready to give you independence. And you fought for your independence,
Mm-hmm.
but we lost. You know, so the things that we lost, you pay us with interest. I haven't heard the African continent say that is highway robbery. I haven't heard the EU, the Europeans, the Americans say, why should they pay you? You know, but yeah, it's poor Haiti paying. I mean, they're done, but they pay. And you have French, the French franc tied to the francophone currency. They don't even make it the same. So it's, you know, and you go, and I always say, you don't see Botswana president going. Ian Kama before never went because his country runs. You know, in fact, he hardly went to the AU. He would say to his ministers, you go, I don't have the time. And the country runs. If you run your country well, you will not have to go traipsing to your Lord, because that is your Lord and Master. You're going to bow. He's giving you the shiny little ball. He may give you 200 million. Do you know how much he's taking from you? So it seems as if we come back to this fundamental question, what does it mean to be free? Are you really free when somebody pulls the strings? Are you free? You know, I mean, it's almost, you know, when I see it, it's like, I think obscene is the only word I can use to describe the kind of utter dependency that we have for food, for any basic thing, you know. So it's really, I mean, I don't know what Liberia would have been if Garvey's dream had come true. But coming to the fundamental, I just wish, what would have happened if Dubois and Garvey had worked together to say, you know what, we will work together for the upliftment of the Black race. Practical and idealism goes together, and we will work towards it. Because it's always seemed that whenever we try to do something, there's always this division that comes, you know, and so we fight for the master's crumbs. You know, it's not that we fight to be seated at the table. Even when we're seated at the table, we feel we don't belong there. We sit at the edge of our seat when we should occupy our seat. You know, it is so sad. I'm sorry, I'm yelling because of the noise of the air conditioning, but it is very sad. Very informative video. Hello from the US. Would like to ask you two great scholars how you feel about the US schizophrenic relationship with Liberia in the past, or even before CIA interference. What does that mean, CIA interference?
Well, first you want to know about what is this US schizophrenic relationship with Liberia? What is it? Is it that the US feared Liberia, and for what? You know, so we have to be able to break down that phrase, which is the schizophrenic. Schizophrenic relationship with Liberia.
And Harold George, you know, in some ways I agree with you. You know, I mean, I always say, I don't think that, you know, this special relationship that we always talk about. How special is this relationship? You know, because if Liberia would say our interest, you know, we will build ourselves up. You know, instead of, because it is a schizophrenic relationship. You know, I think that's an appropriate word.
But the thing about it, what I'm saying is, when schizophrenic relationship with Liberia, has America ever feared Liberia really? Because the schizophrenia comes in unnecessary fear of Liberia. Was there, if there's anything America wanted to be done with Liberia, you know, it's like coming to the minds that we're talking about. These people, those who could push power things here and there, they send African Americans out of this place, out of Liberia out of America to Liberia. Was there any fear that they had? Except, of course, if you're talking about communism, except you're talking about the element of communism. But beyond that, no. All they wanted was to be done with those people they just sent out there. It was like a jetsam. You know, you just send them out there and let them be there. you know. And then when CIA, in bringing in CIA, I think he's talking about the coup in Liberia and what have you. But we have to be able to fully understand this purported schizophrenic relationship between the U.S. and Liberia. I don't know.
It's this ad hoc relationship. One minute you are our friend, one minute we have 14 years of war, one
Yeah.
minute we have this, it's this up and down,
Mhm.
never a balanced keel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know. Probably the guy would have come. I don't know what he means by schizophrenic, because
yeah,
that's a psychiatric type of statement he puts in there, and he probably wants us to understand that before we move on.
yeah. I think, I'm fascinated about the place that Liberia has in all of these little global intrigue. It's kind of very fascinating. But all of the questions and all of the issues that Garvey and Dubois were discussing then are the same things that are being
Yeah,
discussed now on
that
social media and everywhere. And that's
yes.
why I say there's
Mhm.
nothing new. These
There's
things
nothing
that we
new.
are talking about, people have grappled
Mhm.
with it, you
Mhm.
know, from time immemorial. Where do I belong? Where is my place?
Yes.
And even this question that Harold George wrote, you could say, before we can even start to talk about that, let's define relationship. Before we can even move, because you taught me
Mhm.
that, Prof. You always say define the basic
Yeah,
word,
yeah, the
So yeah, so
definition.
we can do that, yeah. Yeah. So I want to say um that next week we're gonna have a Bamba Sharif.
Yeah.
We're gonna put the poster up maybe today or tomorrow, so
Mhm.
you can know. The book is a very small book, as I said. It's called
Mhm.
Morovia Reign.
Mhm.
And he wrote a lot of other books. We discuss Morovia Reign, but Bound to Secrecy is also one of his books.
Mhm.
And feel free to read any of his book, and come prepared to ask questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we thank you for joining us today to talk about the Dubois Garvey conundrum.
It-
conundrum. Yeah, and
and and again, to talk about that, we if we are talking about that, we I know the clash is between Du Bois and Garvey. In the background there is Booker Washington. We have to be able to acknowledge the fact that his shadow is cast over what we may be talking about.
yeah,
Talking about the black personality, what it has been, and where it needs to go.
and
How can
also
we
and
go ahead?
also, no, I was saying Garvey is the same as Edward Wilmer Blyden.
Yes. Uh
you
huh.
know,
Uh huh.
it carries
Yes.
on.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see Garvey in a lot of Steve Biko.
Yes. Yes.
Different people. So
Yes.
Garvey's quest, or Garvey's is
Yes.
Garveyism is not dead.
No, it's
It
not
lives
there.
on. Yeah, yeah,
When he came out of jail, one of the speeches he made, yes, as a celebration of what he had been and what he had hoped to make of the black personality.
yeah,
That is one of the best speeches I always think about when I think about Marcus Marias Garvey. Yes.
yeah, yeah. He died so young.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
52 is not old at all.
Yeah.
He died
No,
so young.
not at all. Yes.
Yeah. So probably any other last words before we take our leave?
I will continue to say that Socrates, when he said, man, know thyself, all that we are talking about, the letters and all that, the perceptions people had and what have you, at the center of it all is, who are you? Who are you? What have you made of yourself, and you have the capacity to extend to other people? So these letters and things we talk about, the one question is really, who are you? And then, of course, we can have little things attached to that one question. Who are you, and what do you have the capacity to leave as a legacy for other people? Are you a troublemaker, or you are, are you a troublemaker, or you are there to kind of pacify situations and what have you. At the end of the day, if I die tomorrow, the question is, who was Nambwe? What did he leave for others to remember him by and then move on? I think that is a question that should be in the heart of every man and woman, whether you are black or whether you are white.
And I was going to finish. Is it know thyself?
Yeah.
Right. Each heart vibrates.
Yes.
With that iron string.
Oh yes. Okay.
So you have to know yourself. Yes. So. Yes. We thank you for joining us. We know that it's very nice outside. It was 80 degrees here, so people were rushing outside. But please listen to the show, share the show. I think you can share it. You know, learn more about Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Dubois and the conundrum and the Liberia intrigue that happened. We will see you next week. So we will welcome Bamba Sharif. And whether you are for Dubois or whether you're for Garvey, whether you're for Booker Washington, Booker T, or whether you're for CDB King, we are all Liberians. So until next time, we'll close with this song.
Yes, it was nice being around all of you again after a long while.
Yes.
We are Liberians.